be back with the team here. NFL.com's Pat Kirwan and former NFL GM Charley Casserly. I would love to be a coach. I'd also love to be a GM, but not on draft weekend because these people...
You're the GM of this show.
The GM, whatever it is, but you guys got to play the field here. So this is the reason we bring you in. Folks, we're not breaking down the winners and losers here on the Draft Recap delivered by FedEx because, let's be honest, nobody can know that for 3 years. We're breaking down what the teams did and we feel as far as the teams that filled the needs and others that maybe left a vacancy there. So let's start out with some teams that filled the need. I'll throw out a team. You guys let me know what you think they did. Charlie, let's start with Carolina.
Yeah, I think Carolina did a good job. What they did was trade back in the first round, and they gambled a little bit because linebacker is one of the big needs with Dan Morgan being injured. So they were able to get John Beeson, you can see right on the screen, linebacker from Miami. Then Keyshawn Johnson, how much longer is he going to go? Dwayne Jarrett comes in for USC, and at center, Ryan Khalil is an excellent fit for their for their offense with their zone blocking. And then Charles Johnson, they picked him up in the third round. Hey, Mike Rucker, we're getting towards the end of the career, a good fit here. And Ryan Robinson, good return man.
And Charlie, you've told me before you can never have enough pass rushers, and that's exactly the point there. Get Charles Johnson, a guy to play the end. All right, what about another team here? How about the Atlanta Falcons, same division?
Yeah, I like Atlanta Falcons and what they did. Now, I think they had their eye on Levi Brown, and when Arizona surprised everybody, at least we thought it was a surprise, and took him, things changed a little bit. Wanted LaRon Landry. And LaRon Landry went right before him, but they had more than two guys on their mind, and now they get Jamal Anderson. They settle in on a guy they feel can play defensive end right now, start opening day, get opposite John on the other side, John Abraham, who's been hurt. But this is a replacement for Pat Kearney. And that is the most critical thing that they had to take care of. They come back and get Justin Blaylock. When you get Justin Blaylock, you get a guy that's played all 5 offensive line positions, can come in and play guard, but Charlie knows this as well as I do. You're in the middle of a game, you're trying to survive, and you might have to go over and play some tackle. I see these rookies have to do it. The guy's proven his versatility. 2 terrific picks to go for a great day.
Yeah, and then they also went out and got Chris Houston, a guy that many people had higher up.
Man cover guy.
Maybe the most physical corner in the draft, but they got him picked in the 40s.
Boy, he made a reputation for himself covering Dwayne Jarrett in the opener of the year, and he's a press man corner. He's played most of his career with his back turned to the offense, running around, and he's got a friend on the other side now, D'Angelo Hall, who does the same thing. So when I see 2 cover corners like this, they're going to be a pressure defense. You can play a lot more man. You can do a lot more blitzing when you have 2 cover corners.
So Carolina, Atlanta filled their needs well. We also think Tampa Bay filled its needs well. Pat, what about Minnesota, a team offensively that wasn't very good last year? Brad Johnson, the offense wasn't very good. You see where they ranked in the NFL, 23rd total offense, 26th in scoring. Went out, first 2 picks, offense, explosiveness.
Well, I talked to Brad Childress a number of times leading up to this draft, and it started to get obvious to him that there was a chance that Adrian Peterson was going to fall to them. They made a decision they weren't going to move up in the draft. When Adrian Peterson fell to them, they got the back who's a difference maker. They got a guy they believe. Their doctors think the shoulder's fine. Adrian told me his shoulder's going to be fine. They got a guy that they get, in the first year, you can just get in there with Chester Taylor and make it happen. Then they get Sidney Rice, a receiver in the second round, good soft hands, didn't run some fast times, offended some scouts at his workout when he wouldn't run for them, but they like his skills. He's got more playing speed than he had flat speed. And Marcus McCauley, if he came out as a junior last year, a lot of guys thought this guy was an early second round pick, terrific football player, didn't have a great senior year. Play a lot of cover 2 up there. He'll do a really nice job.
And they needed depth at corner as well because they didn't have a very good pass defense last year. Great rush defense.
And they were thinking corner if a guy like Adrian wasn't there.
At 7. They got him in the 3rd round instead. Charlie, the Jets didn't have quantity, but they traded up to get quality, speaking of corners, and they got Darrelle Revis. Your thoughts on what the Jets did here as far as filling their needs?
Well, I think when most people looked at this draft, they thought there were about 50 or 60 players that could really help your NFL team. So what the Jets did is decided, hey, we're going to get the players we want. We're going to center on a couple of positions. Corner, a major need with their football team. So they went up and got the top corner in the draft in their mind, and you know what, in a lot of other people's minds too, Darrelle Revis. Now, at linebacker, Harris, the inside backer from Michigan, one of the coaches on the staff with the Jets was at Michigan, coached them there. A physical inside linebacker. It's hard to find physical inside linebackers. And the other thing is, don't forget they got Thomas Jones, the running back from Chicago, in a swap of second-round picks. 3 starters at 3 major needs. Good job for the Jets.
All right, so with every team that fills needs, there are ones that leave gaping holes. Let's take a look at some of those teams that we've compiled a list here. That, obviously you can't fill every need. And you see the Bills on there. They needed so much. But, they still need a corner. They didn't address that. But let's start here with the Giants. Let's just start right at the top.
Sure.
Didn't get an offensive tackle. Dave Deal's moving over to the left tackle. Thoughts?
Well, I'll respond to that. The left tackle population was really, really short, and I think if you start looking at what people paid to get Staley and what they paid to get Tony Ugo and give up next year's first-round pick, if you didn't get a tackle early, you probably weren't going to get one. Challenge for the Giants not to do that. But believe me, a lot of people thought Levi Brown was going to fall down in this draft, and when he went by the 5th pick, the top 2 tackles were gone. And Levi has some issues. He's a great run blocker. He still has work to do as a pass blocker. You know if you pass him, you're going to miss. So you can't get it all done in 1 year.
You said Atlanta wanted Levi Brown. There was talk about Houston maybe taking Levi Brown. They didn't. They took a defensive tackle, Amobi Okoye, but they still needed a corner. They also, like you said, everybody needs an offensive tackle. Charlie, what about on Houston missing on some of its needs?
Well, Pat hit it. I mean, there weren't many left tackles. Joe Staley wasn't worth the 10th pick in the draft. Levi Brown was gone. Some people don't even feel he can be a left tackle. They just weren't there. I mean, some years you can't get it, and you just have to move on without it. There were some other teams in this draft that also needed a left tackle. Weren't enough of them this year.
And there's never enough corners either, because everybody can always say we need more corners, so that's why you saw that on the other list. But there's one other team I want to hit on here, the Philadelphia Eagles, listed there as a safety. One team that needed a safety. They lost Michael Lewis, signed with San Francisco in the offseason. Questioning taking a quarterback with its first pick, which was in the 2nd round. Thought process there.
Unusual pick because I think all of us identified the Eagles as a team that had to hit the secondary hard, get a corner early, get a safety early. They didn't do that. They couldn't resist this quarterback that they think has an opportunity to be a guy that's not going to, make their team and maybe down the road be their starter. I think a lot of teams are going to start calling the Philadelphia Eagles because they got a veteran quarterback in there. A guy like Kelly Holcomb could go to a team like Minnesota and really help out while they're trying to get this thing built. Maybe they could get the quarterback and get a safety for him.
Holcomb came with the Takeo Spikes from Buffalo in the trade for Darwin Walker going up to Buffalo. Charlie, what does this mean for Donovan McNabb?
Well, I think it might mean what does it mean for the Philadelphia Eagles here. All reports that I got was Donovan McNabb was going to be ready at some point in training camp. He's only 30 years old. I was told last fall, hey, this is our quarterback for the next 5 or 6 years. If you think that, you're not drafting a guy in the 2nd round with your first pick to be your future quarterback. There must be something here with Donovan McNabb. Maybe it's just simple, hey, men, the guy's been hurt too often. We better start covering our bases. This is a dramatic move for a playoff team that still has holes to make this pick here. And a guy that, there are different opinions on John Cole. Okay, not everybody is sure this guy is the answer.
Yeah, Kevin called it.
Kevin, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. He definitely. There's so many guys. John Beck, Kevin Cobb. There's so many guys who can keep their head on straight. But definitely agree with so many different quarterbacks in this, especially in that second group of guys. So many different opinions. We'll see what happens with him, John Beck in Miami, Drew Stanton in Detroit. All right, folks, there you have it. NFL Draft Recap delivered by FedEx. Teams back together. We'll see you when your team takes the field. Pat Kirwan, Charley Casserly. I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care.